Welcome, friends, to another piping hot serving of the Cyber Metal podcast. This one's a fun one. I feel like I say that a lot. We just get a lot of cool people on the show, so I'm pretty stoked. This one is definitely near and dear to my heart. One of my big time work colleague proximity associates there. We'll get into why that's an inside joke in a little while, but let's do the intro so we can get right into it. Of course, I'm still, as of right now, Omar Sangurima, joined as always by the amazing.
Why do you sound so sad about? I'm still. Are you transitioning? Do we need to know something, Omar?
I
You're
want to
just
wake up as a different person. I'll sometimes, a lot
No,
of
but you're so
times lately,
great.
but
you
you've been
know.
doing the work already. You're
Yeah,
already a different person than
I,
you were just a year ago or 5 years
that's.
ago
I mean, sure,
or
I
10 years
guess.
ago. We
I
talked
mean,
The
about your
name is
pirate
the
days.
same, but
but
you're on a cellular level. You've
I
evolved.
wish,
There you go.
I've been thinking back to that scene in Forrest Gump, right? If I was a bird, I could fly far, far away.
There you go.
But yeah, it's been so. Yeah, still lamentably, I get. No, not really, but still, Omar Sangurima joined as always by my great co-host Alyson Laderman.
Well, hey, Omar, I'm always happy to be here and give you some guff. It goes both ways, so it's all good.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'll do our normal disclaimer and then we're just going to get right into it because I'm excited also. Well, I'm always excited too, but I'm really, really excited to be here with Ari. So, though you have two lawyers on today's podcast and a cybersecurity expert, we are not your lawyer or cybersecurity expert for the purpose of the podcast, but we are here to share our experiences, our well worn and earned knowledge, and see if maybe there's some nuggets you can take with you and little things you can glean and apply in your everyday life or your business life. So, we're here to be a service and we're happy to be part of that process. So with that being said, Ari, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and why you decided to hang out with us two crazy people so early on this morning.
I'm telling you, like I said, not a morning person, but for Alyson, who's my new friend, and for Omar, who's a very old seasoned colleague that will never die. I'm happy to be here. So thank you guys first and foremost for having me. This is super exciting. Yeah, what can I tell you about me? So New Yorker, born and raised, lawyer for how many years now? Don't make me count. So I'm not gonna. But I work alongside Omar actually at Memorial Sloan Kettering. We work in the information security office, and it's been quite a ride. I've been at Memorial for, oh my God, I think this year I make 14 years, like next month. Yeah. So 14 years, it's been a really long time. I don't feel like I've aged 14 years, but apparently time says I have. And yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. I actually started at the organization like 2 months before I went to law school. So I was doing a part-time law program at New York Law School. So doing like evenings. And then I started working in the clinical space, doing things like scheduling of operations, of appointments, helping with imaging, talking to patients about, well, not quite medications, but like, putting those through to the doctors and nurses, et cetera. And that lasted a little over a year. And then I moved into the HR legal and regulatory space, which was where I finally started to get into, the work, the legal side of things that I would be eventually doing. Not what I'm doing now, but still along that path. And that was a wonderful experience. And I was there for quite a while. I want to say like 4 years. And then I moved into the environmental health and safety space. So that was entirely different from HR legal.
Mm-hmm.
Still dealing with a lot of legal things within the organization, but completely different. So you're thinking, fire laws and regulations, Legionnaire's disease, like water cooling towers and all of the things that go with having to maintain those, hazmat, doing, what was it? The irradiator.
Nuclear
So
stuff.
we have nuclear materials in our labs with which the scientists work. And so I basically sort of headed the program to approve people to have access. So, fingerprinting, iris scanning, going through background checks, all of that. And then that was actually HR legal, but that's sort of the type of work that I was doing. And then I had an opportunity. I spoke with a good friend of mine. We were actually at the staff picnic one summer, and he was like, asking me how I'm doing. And I said, doing great, but I'm thinking about what my next move is going to be. Not sure that I want this to be what I'm doing long term. And it was Hector, Omar.
No, and
And
Hector's a beloved and
he's
longstanding,
wonderful.
he's a great mentor. I love the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And I knew him from my HR legal days because we used to work with each other on like IT stuff, etc. And so I was chatting with him and he said, "Look, why don't you talk to our CISO, Mike?" And I was like, "Okay, sure, sounds good." And he was telling me a little bit about it and I was very intrigued. I ended up not doing anything about it. I was like, "This guy's not going to want to talk to me." Didn't even send an email, nothing. And then I see Hector again many months later. And he was like, "So what happened? How's work going?" I was like, "Oh, still looking." He's like, "Did you reach out to Mike?" And I said, "No, I haven't." And he got mad at me. He was like, "Arielle, please go and reach out to Mike. I'm telling you, they're looking for someone. They want someone who's got a legal background. It's a new thing that they're trying to, a new position that they're trying to create for the department." And I said, "Okay, fine." So I gave him a shout via email. And I think it was like either later that day or the next day, we got on a phone call. He was fantastic. If anybody knows our CISO, he is just a gem of a person. And he made
I'm
me feel
building up the
great.
courage to get him on, but just because it's
Oh,
just, you know
yeah,
what I mean? But it's just like, because like, we're in a weird,
you have
like, I
to.
think he'll say yes. As weird as it
And
seems,
that's
but it's,
scary for you.
yeah, a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Like that, just getting, it's just,
I'll ask him
yeah.
for you. Not that he's going to say yes to me more than he would to you, but
I think he
if that
would. I
helps
think he
break the
would.
ice,
I think you're showing why, right? Like, because what, like,
there
in
you
a
go.
day, like, you throw a feeler out there, and in a day they're like, "Hi," right? Like, that's,
He
they
was
took like a
awesome.
week to
That
get
was
back
just
to me.
that was just luck for me. But he was truly awesome. And then, a few weeks of like HR stuff and moving around and them finalizing the position. Then I started here and the rest is history. It's been like phenomenal. I should give the caveat. I had zero tech background, whether by experience or education, absolutely nothing, but I loved it from day one and it was wonderful. And the whole department, the whole group has just made it for not just for myself, but for anyone coming into this field with or without that tech background. That's not really what they hire for. They really do hire for like the soft skills, the resiliency, adaptability, problem solving. And yeah, they're fantastic. And it's been wonderful ever since. I still don't consider myself a tech expert, but I've come a long way, let's say, from those first days, as Omar
Well,
gives me
first of
that
all,
look.
shout out to your company because they need to take like other companies need to take note
Oh,
of that
yeah.
progression and the fact that you did spend all that time in that experience going through the different channels and really understanding the organization as a whole and then giving you that opportunity to learn that new set of skills because you already had skills that they obviously valued because
Hmm.
you'd been there for so long and saying, here's the next growth opportunity for you and for us. And I don't think enough companies do that. That's brilliant that you had that opportunity to be able to do that over 14 years and say, look, I started with patients. I've gone through HR. I'm doing environmental stuff. And then they go, now come play in a whole new area. Like I said, not tech background. And to be able to do that, because a lot of listeners, they talk about how do you make that transition and things that Omar and I started talking about with people are like, sometimes you just have to look for that opportunity and
Yeah.
make an opportunity in that company and go, well, how about this? Which is what I did in my company I was at. I was like, hey, you guys aren't doing these things. Should we maybe talk about it and let's see what we can do to fix that situation? It's wonderful that your company had the forethought, like the afterthought to go, you know what? We need somebody in this new evolving space. Here's someone who we really enjoy all of the skills that the soft skills and everything she's already doing. And to be able to like bring you through that and then present that opportunity for you to be able to succeed the way you have so far. So
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. And I think one of the things that's really beautiful about the company at large, but for sure our department, is the emphasis on making like continued education accessible for people. So we have a ton of courses available at, the HR level, like standard things within the organization. We have a great tuition reimbursement program. We have departments that are constantly, taking into consideration budgetary restrictions and all of that. But they really do. They're like, can you take a course? Can you go to a conference? What can we do
it's
to
amazing.
help make it so that you're growing? And I will say again, shout out to Mike if he ever sees this and then this entices him to come on. He really says, and not just him, but all of our bosses will, Omar and I's
Andy,
direct
Josh.
supervisor, Andy, Josh, they really do believe, they're like, we want you to continue honing in your skills, learning new skills, ramping up that resume so that if you want to leave tomorrow, you can. But hopefully, we make the environment such that you don't feel you will or you want to. And I think I can't speak for everyone. I think that's the general sentiment being shared, but for sure for me, that's exactly how it is. Like, I feel like I'm constantly being challenged and helped to reach that maximum potential, but I don't want to leave because I love it so much. And there is something to be said about that. So, managers, executive leadership out there, if you're listening, take note, that's how you keep really good employee morale, good talent, and that's how you grow whatever program it is, whether it's cybersec or something else. That's the way to do it. Easier said than done, maybe, but that's the way to do it.
Well, but they're walking the walk, right? Your company's doing
Absolutely.
it, and it is rare. Sadly, this is something Omar and I talk about all the time, and see, especially online when we're talking to others at LinkedIn. I can tell you, in my experience of 20 plus years, I can't really name an organization that supported financially the ability, like tuition reimbursement necessarily. Maybe
Hmm.
one in-house position
Yeah.
where there was a little bit of, oh, if you want to take a little course, but the budget was like $250. So it like wouldn't cover your CLE necessarily, never mind going to a
Yeah.
conference or something.
Sure.
So you have a really rare opportunity there, but I agree with you that other companies need to take note because case in point, you've been there 14 years and you love it and you're
No
still
plans of leave.
growing and right.
Yep.
No plan to leave and value add, and you're happy with the people you work with and the opportunities there. And I think there needs to be a lot more of that in the
I agree.
respective spaces. What, like you said, whether it's tech or not, it's the more companies invest in their teams. And I totally get the whole, well, they might leave us. Well, right, but not if
That's
you
the
treat
risk
them
you
well
take. And you know what's
and pay
funny?
them
And
well.
I think, right. And I think it's really funny. And Omar, we've seen this for sure
Mm.
with people both internally and externally. Yeah, some people leave, but you know what? It's not the most uncommon thing for people to leave and then come back.
Yeah, we got a lot of boomerang folks that
A
go
lot, like
way
at
back.
The
least in
grass
our
isn't always
company.
greener.
Right. And And you may want to go somewhere not because you're unhappy or because you don't have opportunities, but because there's just something else calling you. You
Mhm.
want to take a shot at it. And then, whatever happens there, that might be a great experience too. And then you're like, okay, now I want to go back to, I went from X to Y. Now I want to pivot back to Z. And
Mhm.
Z happens to be where X was. And so, you do that. And it goes to this idea of not burning bridges both ways, though, because I
Mhm.
think as an employee, that's very important. But I think not enough employers perhaps realize that that goes for them too. Everything is a two-way street. And you'd
Mhm.
be surprised, like the problems that former employees can help solve coming back with a fresh pair of eyes or fresh experience and still having the org know-how. I think it's something that for sure I've seen happen more than I thought would. And I think that again is a testament to our organization. I can't speak to how it is outside of the organization, but I think that if it's not happening, again, little antenna should go up. It can. And so, treat your employees well. And of course, you treat them well. They're going to go out, talk well about your company, refer people, whether it's for employment or for goods or services that you're providing, whatever that may be. You can't go wrong treating people well in life or in business. It's always going to be a good thing, I think.
100%. 100%. And I can tell you, every opportunity has been built on relationships in my experience.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I had started a company with a lawyer many years ago, many, many years ago, and I had to leave our startup about year in due to like things going on the personal side where I had to go
Mhm.
take what I call a soul sucking job and not do what I enjoyed, but I had to pay the bills, right? We
Yep.
all make that decision at some point in our lives, right? And
Sure.
Yep.
so I unfortunately had to leave her and the company, and we still remained friends. And when work came in, I was able to literally refer to her. I was like, look, I don't do it, she does it, and would send work to her over the years. She built her business to a wonderful, successful thing, and eventually she had to make a choice and ended up moving out of state for her family. And funny enough, she's now we always keep in contact, and as we started Mettle, she's now the vice president of our board.
Wow.
So
You
you
see?
just never know how those
Never.
relationships go. I mean, I can't imagine my life without her. honestly, even though we both had to come and go at different times. And that's happened with every business and organization. I mean, one of the largest firms I was ever at, I still send them business. If somebody says, hey, I'm looking for X, Y, and Z type of attorney, I may not send them to the whole firm as a whole, but the attorneys, my supervisors, those that I work with that I trust, call this person, here's their cell phone, this is, and get them in direct contact so people can get what they need. To your point, it goes both ways, right? Like the company wasn't thrilled that I had left, but we didn't burn bridges, right? And so I still feel confident enough to send them people that they're going to take care of, and vice versa. So
Yeah. And I think this is just like an extension of the importance of networking. And I say this not being a networking expert myself at all, but I think what is,
I disagree. I disagree. I'm gonna cut you off there real quick because
you
one of the
stop
things I
that.
wanted to get in was pairing up with you when I started was one of the pivotal things that showed me actually the power of networking. And, because you have the trope of the IT people and cyber people as well being very, leave
With
us
the
alone.
hoodies on and
the
like,
hoodie in the
Exactly. In
cave,
dark rooms,
the
and
basement.
it's not to say we don't have, those among
we do,
our
but they're
cohort.
still great people.
They're phenomenal folks, sweethearts of people. That's just how that's their that's their wavelength, I should say, not bandwidth, but wavelength. And that's fine. But I distinctly remember going in and just from the time we would walk in to the building to getting up to our floor and then walking to our section of our floor, you probably would say shout out and people would stop like 4 or 5 times with you. And I remember and that stuck in my mind, and it really truly turned and now I leverage that internally as well. Now that's actually one of my strengths, I think, at the organization is the fact that, like, someone you can go, "Hold on, who knows so and so?" For that side chat that's gonna actually get something done beyond any of the red tape. Again, not like, we're governance, so it's not like we wanna skirt all the rules, but that taught me there. So the power of networking, I I would respectfully disagree. I think you're quite an effective networker because I distinctly remember you saying, "Oh," and then especially being my first few months in the org, you're like, "Okay," because that always sets the tone,
I
right?
think
That's how
for me though, I don't, and maybe this is a problem in how networking is marketed. But I don't see that, you think about networking and you're like, okay, you go to a conference and you shake people's hands and you exchange
here.
business
Hi.
cards. And that to
Yeah,
me, I'm not good at because it feels look, there is tremendous value behind that. And I actually have made really good friends that way. But I feel that, and maybe this is a hot take, but I feel that that to me doesn't come naturally because it doesn't feel genuine. But if we're
correct.
talking networking, like just making relationships, that to me, I think comes much easier and I enjoy it because I'm the type of person like if I walk in somewhere, I'm going to say hi. I have a toddler and like at the park, I'm friends with like all the parents and we have play dates and this and that because, you walk into a park, you have some sort of a shared connection, which is having children in this neighborhood, etc. And, you bond over that and you say hi. I'm like, I can't go in somewhere and not say hi to anyone or not, try to socialize, even just on a basic superficial level. Superficial meaning simple, not, disingenuous. But yeah, I can't, that's something that to me is just natural and it's so important. And so in that aspect, yeah, I think networking in the sense of making just genuine connections with other people, other humans, and that can go a really long way. So yeah, if you're in an office space or you're working with people, like just give a shout, say hi. You see the same people every day, chat with them. You never know where that will go. It can create really, really good connections for the long term. So yes, in that respect, Omar, I appreciate it. I'll take the compliment. That
It's
definitely comes more naturally to me,
Well, and I think
for
that's such
sure.
a great distinction, right? People talk about networking, they
yeah,
do think it's the business card roulette type of thing, but like those in
Yeah.
a drawer, I mean, nobody pays attention to that. But if you have a genuine conversation with someone, my whole thing is when it's a very large room of people and I go, okay, I don't even know where to start. And I'm not into that either. I'm not into like, here's the card. We're
Yeah.
not going to play American Psycho. Oh, that's a nice business. We're not doing that.
look at the
Right.
card
So
stock. Look at what
yeah.
you
So
put on.
Oh, it's shiny. Is it
Yeah.
scented? What is this?
oh, I love Now, granted, I love a good business card, right? I'm like, oh, I like the
Sure.
texture. I had one that felt like shark skin for the lawyer because,
Oh, that's fancy.
yeah, it had
I
that very
love
rough
that.
texture, which, by
Okay.
the way, works really well for raffles because they feel it and they pull it. There's your free tip for the day. So go get funny feeling business cards for raffles.
Very smart.
Yeah. It's
I
just
would have
weird
never
stuff.
thought of that. That's amazing.
Very, very
Yeah.
smart.
Well, we used to,
Tips for
okay, other
everyone.
secret, you fold it in half. So then they have 2 chances of touching your
Look at this.
card. So just make it a V.
I'm
and
gonna
then
get
Look at
every
you,
free dinner
Alyson.
being raffled off now. It's over. All right. Applebee's
Everything.
ain't gonna know what hit them. I'm gonna just
Do you still go to Applebee's? I don't even know where one is
not
around
on
here.
Put a
purpose,
few
but
in.
it's the one thing off of the train. I went in yesterday, so that's why it's top of mind. But I
Okay.
made the distinction of like, no, not Applebee's. Let me go to. But then, of course, I went to
You're like, I'm going
the
to Chili's.
overpriced market, right? Where it's
Which
because
was the same food.
which kind of
Pretty
was the
much.
same food, but
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
like banged me for $100, and I got like 2 little things at the salad bar. I was like,
Yeah.
this. I mean, I better enjoy it because this is, it's like, can I put it
That
back?
should be their
No, it's
slogan.
salad
Better
bar.
enjoy it.
It was
Better
like a
enjoy
person
it
like,
because you will regret it. I mean,
just
This.
somebody like, better enjoy it. Like, oh Christ, I think that would be effective. I'd probably go there more. But yeah, it was, yeah. But that's the only Applebee's I've ever like consistently come into contact with is off the train. A shout out to this Applebee's of Southeast. The people are lovely.
Well,
But
and
there's a
that
ceiling.
goes to show you location, location, location.
But there's a ceiling on what you're gonna get, right? And every time I'm
That's
like,
true.
I'll bring food home when I come back from the city. My wife goes, please don't stop. I think that's enough.
Don't bother.
unless it's a pretzel from the cart on the corner, you really don't need to.
Or
to bring
even
it
like
home.
Grand Central's like basement. Like they actually have some decent
They have
eateries down
wonderful
there.
things.
It just has to survive the hour and a half, that
Right,
it takes
right.
me to then get from.
Well, look, I have gotten many a delicious French pastry from my husband when he's coming back from Grand Central. They have a
Oof.
wonderful one there. So
They really
if
do.
not dinner, at least some treats for the gals.
I like it.
There
That's
you
actually
go.
a really good idea. Come home with a box and then have them be all stoked.
Mhm.
That's see.
Cookies,
See,
croissants.
so I'm going to bring that
everything.
around. Treats are a great way of networking at work. So I can
100%.
tell you
Yeah.
that Michael, when he worked at the nonprofit for the theater, he knew that most of the team was not getting paid what their value was, right? Because we're working on nonprofit rates.
Sure.
And so we would always hit Costco, which is local to us over here, and get like the big muffins. And he would just feed the young people. Like he's like, here, y'all, breakfast, and just bring it over randomly, not because he had to, not because he got paid for it. It literally came out of our pocket to do it. And that just brought everybody to the table to come over and have a moment and chat with each other and be human and be able to connect and that type of stuff. And so, those offer those relationships and those additional opportunities as well. And, bribing people with
Absolutely.
sugar. I mean,
Yeah.
not
Or
brainers
even
sometimes.
the
what
one
life's
tip
about,
I
you know?
like to do, I remember, and this goes very far again, to your point, Alyson. If you have, I've seen where like if we have on-sites and then we get it catered or whatnot, it's always, it's always going to be more than like, you're going to eat unless you really
Yeah.
try to cheap out and it's like, okay, there's 6 people, we're getting 5.5 sandwiches and they're the last person's fighting for that. No, you're going to get, if there's 6 people, you're going to get like 15 sandwiches. It just happens because of
Yeah.
the rates that the catering, the caterers do.
And you want to give
Bring
people
that to the
options.
communal area when you're done.
Oh, for sure.
You
Absolutely.
can spark up conversations.
That's right.
See people that you normally wouldn't have talked to, I think, in different departments. Just so happens, this happens for us, Ari, like a lot on the second floor because we'll have, at
Yeah.
633. And then you bring that to like whatever communal pantry space.
Right.
Folks love it. And you do that consistently.
Also, if you
folks love it.
want to have meetings, not meetings internally, but if you're like doing presentations or something that a lunch and learn or whatever, you give people like treats, snacks, lunches, you will inevitably have more people come.
100%.
And it does open doors. There's something
Yeah.
about food and comfort and being in that position that feels more human and more connecting kind of thing. And I think it's just that whole history of like we come to tables together to commune and to share and basic nourishment is part of that, like
Yeah.
meeting that need for certain people. And so, well, for all people. I mean, we all need to eat. That sounds
Certain
silly to say for
people.
certain. The AI doesn't need to eat, but the rest of us do.
Sure though.
I've heard of some
true.
ascetics that have gone a long time. Now, whether that's true or not, who knows? But technically, yes.
Are you going to hit me with the same people that like have the hand up for like 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Remember? Like that is some of those folks.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
I
It's
don't know.
true. Well, I think it happens.
I
The power of the human mind. Couldn't be me, but
no,
it
that's very
absolutely
true.
couldn't be me. I'd get so angry. Yeah, it'd be tough. But networking is more powerful. And again, to like kind of maybe bring us back a little bit on it really, I consider it probably like one of my top 3 skills now. And again, because you set the path,
Oh, I
right?
appreciate that. I mean, I think
Right?
you've always been really good at that. And I mean, I know you've done, if I may give you a shout out, you did Toastmasters,
That was a
which
big deal. Big time.
that's a huge thing. And I know, who is it? Someone else that we know recently was saying that they did it or were
Was it
going to
perfect?
do it.
Or he was or Flory?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. That's all I
I
got,
can't
but
remember,
yeah.
mom brain. But I think that that's another really great thing. And, anyone looking at the podcast, watching, who wants to get an idea of how you can network in a more organic fashion, that's a really great opportunity. Now, I don't know, if there are any places that it's not readily available, but I think it's really fantastic because it puts you in a room with people who have a similar goal.
Mm, mhm.
And, you have a similar goal, but you're not necessarily in the same environment. And so that opens up your space to people of, different backgrounds, whether it be educationally, from an employment perspective, and obviously just as humans, you'll naturally have different backgrounds. But I think that's really cool because that again opened, I know from your personal experience here, I am talking about what you've done as though I've done it. But I know you've met a lot of people even within the org and made really great connections so that when we've had to do, a project or do
Exactly.
work to change something around to get some stuff moving, you've been able to leverage your connection with those people. So for anyone wondering how to get started or to move along and to create those connections, especially with cybersec, look for those types of opportunities where you can put yourself in a room with people that it doesn't require you to have a certain experience necessarily. It doesn't have much by way of requirements, but it can open a lot of doors in terms of connection and building those relationships, that know-how. So I don't know, maybe you want to talk more about that because I know that that was really successful for you and as a result for our department.
I think there's no way that I would have gotten used to presenting in a COVID and post-COVID environment without getting over my hatred of being on camera. I absolutely people that see, I do this podcast, I do another one for the GRC Engineering Club, like, they're like, "Really? You hated it?" "Oh, yes, I did." Hands down.
And
Like,
he's always
and
on camera,
yeah,
constantly.
and that's the thing, like,
The
and
rest
now
of
I'm
us aren't,
used
but you
no, but I'm the one that if somebody jumps on camera, I get on there, so it's not,
Mhm,
there's not one person kind of just being and then again, that's like another point of connection and another point of,
mhm.
"Okay, I'll meet you where you are," and then that could get over.
That's right.
Because sometimes just by nature of the beast, meetings will be contentious, there'll be, differing, KPIs, or differing goals, differing resource constraints on different teams, we're all working on the same mission, but sometimes you walk in and it's a bit okay corrally. Anything you can do to kinda soften that even slightly and let folks, as Alyson said, come to the table a little bit more, I found then, it's not all moonbeams and rainbows. There's still some times where you're just gonna go, "How the heck did that go sideways? What are they thinking? I don't understand it," even as much as you wanna try to get in their heads, you can be like, "I don't wanna be in your head. That's just the dumb thing you did, and I don't see any way that" but you can still at least try to forge those pre-connections or show, "Hey, we're here to collaborate," whether they pick up on it or not. But again, the reps the Toastmasters gave me, it's to the point where now, I'm being asked to do a session for the club, and I'm doing a public speaking one. I'm bringing in one of the mentors from Toastmasters. I'm bringing him in, Paul Cordelezzi. Shout out to Paul.
Yeah, I know you're
Yeah,
always hyping each other up on
I
LinkedIn.
the man, I love that dude. There's just something about the cut of his jib and just the way he is, and I think he's an extremely gifted storyteller, and I think that's an
Beautiful.
undervalued skill, especially in
Mm.
tech. But I think most of anything, as you said, Allison, it's, we're wired. for certain things, and storytelling, I think, is one of those things that just
Yeah.
brings that connection and also inspires and can be something where you celebrate history, but then forge forward to a communal future. And I think, and I always admire people that can do that, that can inspire that way. So, but go figure. It's an engineering club, and I'm doing a thing on public speaking. Without
But you know what?
Toastmasters, without those reps, wouldn't have happened.
And that, goes to like the course that I was doing, the cybersecurity
Yes.
graduate course.
I remember.
And
Yep.
things that like Mike talks to us all the time and
Yes.
what you hear whenever you're taking a course. If it's about presenting to a board or presenting to higher ups, to executive leadership about whatever it is that you're trying to get them on board to do, if you need buy in from someone, the number one thing that you're constantly taught and like drilled into you is be a good storyteller, because you can present someone with numbers and charts, and that's extremely important depending on what it is that you're trying to achieve.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, you want to capture people. You don't want to bore them. You don't want them to just gloss over it and yawn while you're presenting. You need to be a good storyteller. And maybe that's one of those soft skills that is underrated and undervalued, because it really, if you can get to that, I mean, hey, you're interviewing. If you can tell a good story about you and why you should be at a company, that's a huge value add. So I think that's really important, Omar, that you said that, because I think it's key and not necessarily obvious, but it is key that you need to be a good storyteller, and that will capture people and that will get you much farther, even potentially, than actual technical acumen. So, food for thought there.
Well, think about it, right? The best marketing is stuff that's memorable because it connected to you in some way and had
Mhm.
that story piece to it where you remember that, right? That's why lawyers use analogies in complicated cases so that it can be something simple that someone else will understand no matter what their background might be or their experience
Yep,
level is. And they can connect with it and go, yeah, I can connect those dots, right? They may not understand the
absolutely.
technical piece of that legal argument, but they go, I understood the analogy. And if that's how that
Hmm.
works, that then you bought into the story. Other ways to kind of gain that storytelling skill. So you've got Toastmasters and things like that. There's I don't want to say he's local. I see him every year for the most part. So we have here in Orlando, it's on my mind because it's what's going on right now, the Orlando International Fringe Festival. It's been going on for 30 plus years.
Yep.
It is unjuried, uncensored, and basically lottery system. And it's 2 weeks of theater and dance and expression. And 100% of the ticket sales go back to the artist that you go to see. One of the artists who I've seen many, many times over the years, his name is Paul Strickland. There's actually, and Martin Dockery is fantastic. There's quite a few that are literally one man or woman shows that just sit up there and tell the most fantastical stories based on real stuff where you are just mesmerized for an hour and you go on the journey with them. And
Mhm.
Paul, in particular, has started these storytelling classes, and you can actually sign up for his free newsletter. And he literally, so his name is Paul Strickland, Strickland. You can sign up for the free newsletter, and he tells you what are the key elements to storytelling. He sends it out every week, and if you want to train with
Awesome.
him, you can. But the nuggets you get from his little weekly, he tells you a story in each of them, but how to connect to that human spirit and how to get people to really be on board. And Ari, to your point, that will go so far in interviews, in explaining it to a board. One of the things
Hmm.
as a lawyer is you always have to know your audience and
Hmm.
really meet
Mhm.
them where they're at. And storytelling is such a great way to paint that vivid picture and connect with where they're going to go. So if you know a judge or a board or an audience is more leaning in a particular direction, you can speak to those themes in a way that will resonate, but also bring it back in. And that is a skill. I think that is absolutely something we should all be practicing. And kind of to Omar's point, storytelling has been around as long as humans have been around, right? We
Hmm.
wrote it on cave walls. I mean, that's how history has shown up and disappeared and shown up again, is to be able to bring those that have experienced things in their lives and bring it to light and to share those stories so that in theory and in hopes, we will all learn from those experiences and
Yeah.
Mm.
improve ourselves and our experience and those of other humans that we coexist with, and even those that we don't know personally, but that are on this journey with us, right? Collectively.
Yeah.
So I think storytelling is just such a key piece for all of those soft skills. I think that brings it all together because if you can
Yeah.
storytell, you're going to network. You're going to feel more comfortable in that space
Hmm.
because it's one of the most human things we can do is share our experiences in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's invaluable for sure. And I know we talked about like one of the things that we would discuss on this episode is, how can a lawyer or somebody not of a
Mhm.
cyber background come into this? And that's something for sure that anyone watching think about. Try to paint your life and your career journey as a story and how you want, how are you going to write that next chapter? How are you going to tell it? And what would be a good transition from where you are now to that future state? Yeah, that's super, super important and beautifully put and very cool if anyone's in the Orlando area to be able to go there.
Totally should do it. And they actually go around. I
No,
know
they do
Edmonton has one. I
internationally.
think New York has one. Yeah.
New
Really?
Yeah.
York, I think Ireland, I remember, right,
Edmonton
has a very
does.
famous one.
Yes. Yep. Ireland for sure. Plenty in Canada. There's several that go through Canada as well. South Florida had one at one point. I don't know if they're still doing it. I think Tampa had a little one. Orlando is one of the biggest, and if you ever get like a weekend or they do it all, like we were there visiting last night because we love to see the local artists and the international artists literally from all around the world come in to do this. And it's like homecoming every year to see these faces and hear where have they
Right.
been, even if we don't go see a show, but of course we do because you want to support the artists. They've now paid their ticket to be here, but you can see any kind of show. And the great thing is they make it accessible to kids as well. There's definitely adult content, so just read where you're going. But on the weekends, they do themes for the kids and they've done hands on and they teach kids how to express themselves, how to story tell, how to engage with other people to make it a comfortable opportunity to learn to create with
That's
yourself
beautiful.
and with others. And it's such a beautiful, I love it because I think that creativity bring it into tech, right, is what keeps us human and that
Hmm.
ability to communicate in that way and not all sound like AI and to not all create like AI, the computer kind of cookie cutter. It's so wonderful in a time where we are so technology based to go into a
Heavy.
group of humans and
Mhm.
see what they're creating, whether it's acrobatics, whether it's puppetry. I've seen shadow puppet shows. Like, I mean, it is the most amazing group of experience and the tickets are like $15 a piece. It's not,
Wow.
yeah, you're not talking, it's meant to be accessible for all of us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if you ever get a chance to go to a fringe festival and learn from these people straight up, I mean, what's really awesome is it's not just, oh, there's actors on a stage and you don't see them again. They are out in we call it the green lawn of fabulousness. We have this big green lawn area between because it's like 10 or 12 different theaters going on
Okay.
simultaneously. And
Mhm.
you literally just pick and choose the shows you want to go to. But in between, the actors are all outside just milling around, grabbing a beer at the beer tent, happy to chat with you, like, and share their
That's really cool.
experiences. And so I think part of that networking, right, is just be open to
Hmm.
new connections with different people and different backgrounds. And when I go into a room, kind of bringing it back to what I was saying earlier, and we got derailed a little bit onto Applebee's. I look for the people that are most uncomfortable in the space wherever we are, and I go make friendly with them because I don't love being in a big, 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 big room necessarily because I am petite, and so I kind of I start to feel that, and so it's like, let me go find someone else who's uncomfortable. We can go talk about being uncomfortable for a while,
Yep.
Mhm.
and then we both become comfortable and have a conversation and get to connect on something more than just our business cards. Right.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
there's a lot of different ways to approach those new opportunities and that networking. You never know what connection from what person is going to lead either of you into the next part of your chapter or their
Yep.
chapter or the journey
Mhm.
or I can tell you there's been many situations in my life where I met somebody in one context and it totally turns into a completely different context years later.
Yeah, you just don't
Where you're like,
know.
you just don't know. You just
You
don't know.
can't predict these things.
No. And that's the thing. We're all humans on the journey. So my whole thing, I'm a little soapboxy, obviously, today because Fringe brings out the like warm fuzzy in me.
Mm.
But just don't be a jerk to other humans. I'm just kind of in that point right now. And
I
that's
think
Yep.
in a
it
workspace too.
I
There's
think
no
it
need.
correlates a lot with at least the external view of tech or cyber as a place where technical excellence will allow you to be a boorish person or less kind. And what I've seen continuously, both where we work and just in general, being part of that niche, that'll get you places. And sometimes, yes, you can hold up and look at the billionaires that are, but that's that's still not something to emulate. And so
I
it's
agree
not
so
where,
much.
and I love, Alyson, you brought it back in where, because all I'm hearing is, or seeing in the comments section, right? I'm looking in the future and going, well, I'm not an outgoing person. I'm not talkative, or, I'm tech forward, and, I got into tech to not have to talk to people, all the classic stuff. And
Right.
it's just connection doesn't necessarily mean you're out there and you're outgoing, to your point, right? Sometimes you're in a large crowd, and I'm gonna be completely blunt, I felt that yesterday. I went to a graduation, and it was, Yankee Stadium outside was packed. There was 30,000 people at this thing, and then obviously when it was out, it was just you felt like sardines in a can. Didn't help that, I got told to go to the wrong gate and then had to go back, like, so that's a side story, but, like, I was in a lot of humanity, and I'm I'm somewhat of an outgoing person, still hated that. Right? Still hated that whole crowd. So it's not necessarily that you have to be this gregarious, outgoing person or personality. You can still connect and be kind. And on the flip side, I do not care how technically amazing you are. If I'm going to sometimes, and Arielle's seen this, I think, on some meetings. Even if you're a ball out great technical person, if I see you be unkind or try to be, above anyone else in an interaction, it's the kill switch engages for me. And I'm like, I'm going to actively make it so that you have a bad day. Like, now, I was disinterested, you
You're
had my
gonna
interest,
bully
now
the
you have my
bully.
attention, right? Like, then it's like, "Ooh," and
Yep.
well seen it. We've both maybe teamed up on some folks that need to get, it's just, don't, because nothing gives you that license to not be a human being. You just happen to be great at tech, and it's the quickest way to get me to hate on you as a human being is, I'm gonna then start looking for, well, you're not that good at that, and you're not that good at this, and you're, wait a second, and maybe, you're not God's gift to tech, and you very well might be. But then I've become an active contrarian at that point, and I'm somewhat gifted at being that. Like, if like,
Very
I'll gloss
gifted.
over a lot. I'll gloss over a lot, but if you're
Mhm.
mean to somebody on a meeting,
Yeah.
or if you're weird to somebody outside at a social event, it's
And I think that's so true. For me personally, I can't stand that type of personality, especially the idea of people who are like very kind and very thoughtful when they're at a certain level. And then once they've reached another level or goal, then they switch up. It is so off-putting. And yeah, I won't use stronger language. It is very, very off-putting and something that I truly, truly abhor. But and I will say that it, you talk about it in tech, but in life, it does not matter. And again, we're going full circle. Just be kind, because that goes back to burning bridges. You can burn bridges or build them. And it is so, so important to not act in that negative, nasty, ugly way for that exact reason. It's easy enough to make enemies because so many people are trying to be negative and look out, expecting you to fail. But when you put yourself in that position that you've become the bad guy, the bully, you will have people like Omar, and many others
Gunning
who
for
are
you.
who are gunning for you, who are actively trying to. It's one thing, people like to see other people fail, unfortunately, but when you have people who are like right there waiting to, pick up those crumbs of failure and exhibit it to the world, yeah, I mean, you're only doing yourself a disservice. Forget about altruism. Just for your own selfish reasons,
yeah, exactly.
be kind to other people, because
So you're not
otherwise
so
it's
you're
going
not
to come
exhibit
back.
A of Schadenfreude.
Truly,
Schadenfreude, like, right? You don't
exactly.
want to be
You
that
know,
thing.
Absolutely.
But I'm always like, if you can lift, I always feel better if I can lift someone else up and help get them there. I mean, I've seen some webinar panelists recently, and it was so gatekeepy that it
Mhm.
just was disturbing to that level. And that brings it
Yeah.
back to tech, right? Where it was like, oh, you can't, you can't, you can't. And it was like, but you can. I'm not sure
And
why we're just,
and
and it's clear they had made it through in their terms, but then they shut the door behind them. And I just,
right.
in any field, I've seen it in law, plenty,
That's what I was just going to say, like,
plenty.
really
Yeah.
gatekeeping, especially for younger lawyers. I
And women.
remember
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I remember being at a networking event, and literally the entire purpose of the event was for very, very junior lawyers, like first year lawyers or law students. And it was to expose them and to, have them make these connections networking with senior attorneys who have had many, many years, if not decades of experience, in their respective legal field. And when I tell you I went in there, I was a law student then. I mean, ultimately I did fine. That's where that's where I met my husband. But like, you go into these things, and there were people who were fantastic, who were coming out and, chatting with people and really making themselves known and available, accessible to provide advice, to provide mentorship. But then, and I've seen it at many networking events where you just have like clicks and they don't want to talk to anybody else. And, that's not the point of the event. Now, granted, it doesn't matter what level, you're at in your career, people can get a little bit shy. Not everyone is super outgoing, like you said. Not everyone is,
Or they're having a
Mr.
bad
World.
day, right? You never
Right.
know. Stuff has just been
Absolutely.
bad and their social battery is empty before they walk into the room for whatever
For
reason.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. And that happens. And we have to be, cognizant of that, understanding of that. But I do think there are places where people miss the whole point and they try to get clicky. Same thing in job environments. Somebody new comes in, you're like, "No, you're not a part of this group." And that it really can do you such a disservice, especially considering that, let's not forget, again, I'm trying to speak to the people who maybe have more selfish tendencies. Those people may one day surpass you.
They
And
may
you
be
might be looking
lost.
to them. Exactly.
That's
Or
right.
they might
That's
be
right.
the leader of their field. And you're, looking to them you might be looking to them for help, for advice, for mentorship, for a job, for an opportunity. And, people should really think about that. I think that should always be in the back of well, not even the back, the forefront of people's minds, because it, you scratch the back that scratches you. Like you can just keep having this wonderful cycle or not. It can be a cycle of like negativity and one-upping. So choose your battles.
Well, before I know we're getting close to time and I know you all have like crazy days ahead. So before we get to that kind of end spot, from those initial, and Ari, I'm going to kind of put this towards you and Omar as well. I'll have you
Mhm.
both kind of answer this one. But like after you make those initial contacts, what are some of the things that you have found that were successful to help start that relationship, right? It's obviously you don't want to go, oh, I met that person. Now I know them forever. That's not how relationships work.
Right.
What have you found respectively that has worked for you to kind of, I always hate when people add me on LinkedIn and I do not respond right away with thanks for the connection because I realize it looks like an AI bot. So I actually stopped sending that as I don't actually say thank you anymore as a connection because AI automatically does that for so many people now.
Yeah.
I kind of just wait for them to approach me, or if it's someone that I want to reach out to, then I may say, hey, I noticed these things and I'd love to chat about these things. But what
Yeah.
have you two have found that is kind of successful when you meet people either in groups or online to kind of start that communication that doesn't feel like a sales pitch. Like obviously we know
Right.
don't be pushing your goods on the first or even second or even fifth email kind of thing. But how do you continue that relationship and foster that? What has worked for you all?
So I think for me, obviously it really does depend. It's extremely different if you are meeting in person or if you're at least local to somebody versus being, in a different city, state, across the globe now, because everything is global, everything is digital. But I can say if it's a local person, and you also have to gauge, I think everything is contextual, the lawyer, like caveat. But I think if you feel a genuine connection to a person and you happen to be local or you happen to be close enough or you're like traveling to their city, whatever it may be for a conference, etc., like try to meet up and do something like a lunch or a coffee. I know people are very busy. Some people may say no, but I think especially if you can like foot the bill, it's a night, again, going back to like
Right.
food sustenance.
Right.
it's a really nice way to make good connections and to have like a real chat. And I think it makes it feel more organic, right? If you're going to someone's office per chance to have like a networking quick meeting, it feels more structured and time is more limited. And so I think going out of that environment, making it fun, making it again, grabbing like a beverage, a coffee, doing lunch, that's always great. And it's worked well for me. Also, keeping in touch. So if you are talking LinkedIn, right? Some people post a lot and they post really cool stuff, AKA you two, and especially Omar, because I see him posting nonstop. But like, especially if it's digital.
I think the only thing I would add to that would be two things that have worked for me, especially digitally, because that's definitely where I'm, putting in the most effort there. The local is not as easy for me because I'm a little further from the city, but when I do go in, to your point, Arielle, I try to tell folks, hey, I'm going to be in, right? Even on work chats. And then definitely if there's any vendors or any, outside of MSK people that you know, are gonna be or even outside our department, right? I've been put on notice by a couple people outside of the department that the next time I'm at 633, if I don't have a coffee with them, we're not friends anymore. So like that's a big deal. But digitally, 2 things. I clap for people and I mean it. I think like that's, it's a very touchy subject for me. Ariel knows, I think, and you too, Alyson, I think now at this point, like it's very, you know, not a lot of people may or may not have clapped for me in my life coming up, so I make it a point to genuinely do that for other folks, and I think that that's very powerful. It's off-putting. Sometimes folks either A, think you're selling them something, B, who's this weirdo, but then hopefully they get to see where they can feel, "Oh, he's just that type of guy," and I am. When I I celebrate, I realize how hard it is to do anything these days. So when I see something, I clap. It's not a zero-sum game. Someone else's success does not somehow diminish your own. This is knowledge work. It's not a bread line. Go back in there and bake more pie. If the slices are low, you can just go back. That's the beauty of this thing. And then I think it's the biggest thing. And I think the second thing I do you have to,
Yeah.
like, lift each other up.
Yeah.
The world is trying to bring you down. Like, so be the
That's right.
opposite, and suddenly people will remember
That's
you,
right.
I think. And then the last bit, at
Well,
least
because
for
if you're
me, that
fighting, you're not paying attention to what's going on. If we
that's
fight
true.
amongst ourselves, we're not
Absolutely.
paying attention to the bigger picture. And it's so much easier to get in the mud than to actually lift each other up and go, wait a minute.
Mhm.
We could be the ants. Like, I don't know. Okay. So here's for all the parents in the room. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking like the ants in Bug's Life, right? They realize, oh, wait a minute. If we actually all work together, there's more of us at this lower level than at the big level trying to squash us as grasshoppers. If we actually stop fighting with each other and we work together, we can make this a better situation for all of us collectively. And I feel like we're all missing that these days. There's a lot more of let me just fight with everybody and not celebrate the wins genuinely for other people. Like you said, Omar, just because you succeed doesn't mean I have failed.
Yeah. Or there's less, it's 100 points of success, and now because I succeeded, there's only 98, and the only other thing I would add to that is if I am looking to make a genuine connection with somebody, if I'm taking a flyer on reaching out and somebody I admire, I pick out a specific thing that they've either produced, they put out, they've written, they've said, they've been on a podcast, and I make it specific to that person. Hey, I saw this. I thought it was pretty cool. I mean, also, please take this advice, but actually do it. Don't fake it because if it'll come off as disingenuous, and then that person will never trust you again. I wouldn't. If somebody goes, "Hey, I loved it. You said so and so and so and so." I never said that. What are you talking about? Where? Point out to me. Yeah, so do
Yeah.
I. I put it out. Like, why? I don't hate it. Like what? So to that point, like, and again, Ariel, to kind of tie it all together, you're speaking pragmatically. One hand washes the other here. It's you don't wanna have it be the driver for why you do these things because that also comes through eventually.
Correct.
But but if, you need maybe a little bit of motivation because this is work. This is another set of things we're telling people will help, but it's activity where depending on your time or if you need a job now, as you said. But I think it does help. It is self-serving slightly, but it cannot be the driver for that, and, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. Don't treat people as transactions. that will come across all day, every day. I know somebody who does that in his personal life and in their business life. And those of us that can feel it, we're like, okay, then you're just going to discard me like
It
the
is.
next tissue. I know, right? I'm good for today, but tomorrow when you change your mind and I'm no longer valuable to you, that's not true relationship building and that's not real networking in that sense. So
And I would say, I would dare say, to wrap it up, it's not cyber metal. And
it is
it's
not
just not.
resilience. That
That
is
is
right.
no. That is not cyber metal. It's not. You
Right.
have to do it for the long term and do it for the love of the game. That's my personal takeaways here.
There you go.
Arielle, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for hopping on,
So thank you.
and hope to have you again soon. All right. Take care, everyone, and don't do what they're saying not to do, because if you keep away from that, you are keeping cyber metal. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye.